Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1997 family comedy film Flubber. Now, Flubber is one of those movies that whenever it was on, when I was a kid on TV, I would watch it. I would watch it on VHS, and I had a good time with it. And in all honesty, I still have a good time with it now. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people make it out to be. In all honesty, I think it's kind of underrated. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on Flubber, I would like to give a special shout out to Bronson for yet again requesting another review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Flubber is a remake of a Disney film called The Absent-Minded Professor from the 60s. And this film is directed by Les Mayfield. Now, Les Mayfield directed another remake in The Miracle on 34th Street prior to Flubber, which was also produced by John Hughes, who I think also wrote that one. So I think that's probably why he got the job for this. But another reason why is because he directed another high concept comedy in Encino Man. So I think Les was definitely, in my opinion, a solid choice to direct this, and I think he did a good job. I think he injected the film with the right amount of cartoonish and kinetic energy, matched the energy of the film's star and Robin Williams fairly well as the Flubber itself. And there are some shots in this that are honestly really gorgeous and really breathtaking. The shots of the flying car, for instance, when it's flying through the clouds, just some really great looking direction. And there's a lot of other moments in this where I feel the director really did a good job in terms of utilizing different types of shots throughout the film, like top-down shots to show a view from above, to show the flubber dancing on the ground, or different sort of shots that utilize the camera's movements to really emphasize the zaniness and the madcap energy of the flubber. And I feel that the direction was anything but stale. And when there were some moments that were a little bit more emotional, that were definitely trying to be more dramatic than comedic, I also feel Les handled those scenes well too, and got some really strong performances out of his cast, especially Robin Williams when he's uh, really mourning the death of Weibo. So there's a lot of things in this where I feel visually it actually looks great. And I really feel that Les did a wonderful job with the film. So I think that's a major plus when it comes to this movie. I think Les Mayfield did a great job directing this. And I think he doesn't really get enough credit, to be honest. Now, Flubber is written by John Hughes. Now, Bill Walsh is also credited as a co writer, but that's only because he was the writer of the original film, The Absent Minded Professor. I don't really think he was that involved with the screenplay. It's all John Hughes. And this is not some of John Hughes's best work as a writer, but I don't think it's that bad either. I think it's got its heart in the right place. I think there's a fair amount of flubber action in it, and there's a good variety of scenes and moments involving the flubber. Some are more effective than others, but there really isn't a lot of moments in this script or the story where the flubber isn't prevalent or the flubber isn't being utilized in some form, which is what you're looking for out of a movie called Flubber. I think that it has some effective dramatic elements as well. especially when it comes to the scenes involving Weibo and some of the stuff involving Dr. Philip Brainerd and his fiancee Sarah. And as a comedy, there are some moments that honestly were really funny. There are some other moments though that are just kind of lame and just feel like John Hughes is just lazily recycling Home Alone again, especially when it comes to some of the slapstick involving Honeker's henchmen. And there are some tonal issues, and there are some other stuff with the script that I'm just like, huh? But for the most part, I don't think this is that bad of a screenplay. But I would say this is probably the main element that's holding this film back the most. It starts out with this absent-minded professor and Dr. Philip Brainerd, who is trying to develop this new energy source, and he's trying to do all these different things to try to save this college, Medfield College, because it's about ready to get closed down. And on top of all of this, he is trying to not forget his wedding to his fiancee Sarah. And because he's so absent-minded, he's actually forgotten to show up at the altar 2 other times. So this is the 3rd time, and his wife is insinuated and made it very clear that, well, not his wife, his potential wife. She's made it very clear that, hey, if you don't show up this 3rd time, we're done, which is understandable. I mean, 1 time is already too much. 2 times is like, give me a break. 3 times is like, what? You should just be lucky that she's even willing to even consider the thought of marrying you again after you left her at the altar twice. And there's this rival of Dr. Brainerd's, who's this former colleague of his named Wilson Croft, who has his eyes on Sarah, and he and Sarah used to date, and so he's trying to set things up too, so Philip will forget, so then he will swoop in and take Sarah. Philip also has to deal with his robot companion named Weibo, who also doesn't want Sarah to get married to Philip because apparently she's in love with the doctor, which is a really weird thing, and it even gets even weirder as the film goes on, because there's this whole bit where after predictably Dr. Philip Brainerd forgets to get married the 3rd time because of the fact that he finally figures out the formula for his propulsion solution, this new energy source. And that's when you're introduced to Flubber for the first time. But because, he created this new thing and he's experimenting with this Flubber, well, he winds up missing his wedding. And the whole stuff with Weibo, it's weird, but I like it though. I think it goes a little too weird though, with the scene when Weibo creates a holographic version of herself based on a bunch of supermodels, and then I think it tries to sleep with the doctor one night. That is just a little too weird for me. But the whole stuff with her being jealous, I liked. I liked that Weibo was a robot with a personality and was a really well fleshed out character despite it being a robot. I loved the fact that she used video on this video screen that she had that popped up to comment on things and to make references to stuff. And so you had like clips from The Simpsons and other Disney movies and all this other stuff that is utilized, like some old black and white comedies and Three Stooges and soap opera footage. And it just really made Weibo into a very unique on-screen character that was really cool. And because of how well Weibo was written, the scene when Weibo dies is devastating. Like, it's a really sad scene. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest strengths of this script is the Weibo elements. Not just the stuff where Weibo's being fun and mischievous and acting like a jealous lover, but also the scene when Weibo ultimately dies and when she's trying to protect Dr. Brainerd's home and she wants to get hit with a baseball bat, and then Brainerd finds her later that night and she dies in his arms. Like, that is just a really sad and very effective scene. And it's a robot. It's all about a robot character. I think that some of the stuff involving Philip and his fiancee Sarah is also effective, especially the moment when he is talking to Weibo and he says, "I'm absent-minded not because I don't care. I'm absent-minded because I love my wife. I love my potential wife. I love Sarah. I love her so much that's why I'm absent-minded." And I like that a lot, actually. But I think there are a lot of other things with this dynamic with Philip and Sarah that's not really the strongest, especially when it comes to what is happening once Philip shows her Flubber. He shows her Flubber in her office one day, and it's clearly sentient and it's moving around on its own, and she's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, get that green crap out of here. I'm mad at you. And I'm like, come on, you're a scientist, or I think it's insinuated that she is. Like, I mean, the reaction is ridiculous. Like, you would honestly expect a whoa, what the hell is that? And then, like, I don't care, I'm mad at you. Not like no reaction whatsoever to the Flubber. And like, she keeps that up because there's this whole bit with the basketball game, which I can see why some people aren't really that big on it, but I didn't mind it. It was fun. But she's just completely nonplussed about that too when Philip tells her about how those nerdy, scrawny kids were able to jump like 10 to 15 feet in the air and dunk and bounce the basketball like 100 different times and win the game. And she's all like, huh, well, I don't really care. Yeah, it's just like, I just felt that was really not that great, honestly. And there are some moments of the Flubber that definitely feel like it's an effects reel, like the whole bit where the Flubber dances and the to this I think it's like Cuban music. So it dances to this Cuban music and it's like, okay, all right. It's not a bad looking effect, but you can just tell that that's something that's in there just to be like, "Hey, cool, look at what we can do with all these effects." Does it really have an effect on the plot? No. But look at this. Look at what the Flubber can do. And you have the whole Home Alone slapsticky stuff that's thrown in there with Honeker's henchmen who show up and try to investigate Dr. Brainerd, because there's this whole thing with Honeker, who is the sponsor for the college, and Honeker's son, Bennett, who is being flunked by Dr. Brainerd, and so he's trying to intimidate Dr. Brainerd to give his son a passing grade, but then that's just dropped completely when Honeker finds out about the Flubber and then decides to steal it, which is why Weibo winds up dying. And so you have that whole bit initially where the henchmen are spying on Dr. Brainerd, and then like one guy gets hit in the head with a golf ball that's covered in Flubber. Another one gets hit with a bowling ball that's covered in Flubber, and then it's kind of like, okay, this is very much recycled leftovers from Home Alone. And eventually you get to the point where Sarah, because of the fact that Weibo grows a conscience and decides to fix the relationship the best that she can, and shows Sarah the footage of Philip bearing his heart out to Weibo and talking about Sarah, she gets back together with Philip pretty quickly. There's not really that much of strain, or really that not really any pushback. And Philip takes her on a car ride in the sky in a really, honestly, a really sweet scene. And then they decide, hey, we're going to sell this flying car to Ford. They make the deal with Ford. They come home that night. That's when Philip finds Weibo dying because Honeker's henchman stole the flubber. And Weibo, though, had a backup plan. Weibo recorded a goodbye message to Philip, which is also another element of the script that was really well done and tugged at the heartstrings quite effectively. And her backup plan is called We Bet. It's her daughter. So she created a different AI and improved some things and created some plans for it. So Weibo Weibo is dead, but some portion of Weibo will live on through her daughter, which I thought was really sweet. And after that, though, Philip and Sarah decide to go rescue the flubber and go straight to Honeker's mansion. And they cover themselves in flubber and come up with this plan in order to release the flubber. And it's a fun uh, action sequence that honestly features the funniest moment in the movie, when one of Honeker's henchmen, played by Ted Levine, Wesson, he's asked by Honeker to shoot Philip with this water pistol that Philip had. And so Honeker's is like, give it to him. And Wesson's just shooting him with the water. No. I said, give it to him. So he just keeps shooting with the water. It's like, oh God, his hand. Give it to him in his hand. And then you just shooting. He starts shooting Philip in the hand. And then eventually he gets the point. But that was really hilarious to me. It was definitely one of those like old school kind of comedic bits, but just the way that it was written and the way that it was executed was hilarious. It just had me busting a gut. And then you have this fun stuff with the flubber, where Sarah and Philip are bouncing around and punching the bad guys. And they release the flubber. They use the headlights to make the flubber freak out, because the flubber can't handle bright lights, because that's what happened earlier on. Uh, Philip took a photo of the flubber and it went berserk. So they utilize that to their advantage and take out the bad guys. But like, they were in a meeting with them earlier and basically said, yeah, we'll give you our research, and we'll share the profits for the first 2 years, for the next 2 years. It seems like they made a deal with Honeker, and it doesn't seem like that deal is off. And it doesn't seem like they got arrested or busted for anything. So it doesn't seem like they're really out of their lives. They just got defeated at that one moment. Yeah, you had the whole thing with Wilson, where the flubber went inside of him and then shot out his butt, which is honestly a pretty freaky scene. I can honestly just only imagine like how weird and how unsettling that would be if you had the flubber inside of you, and then that just sounds kind of scary in a lot of ways. Surprised it didn't go even more horrible for Wilson, but still pretty bad. Left a hole in him, so now he's got two holes in his butt. But I just I don't really feel like that was very well done either in terms of the resolution for things. It's like, okay, they're still gonna be there, and the guy's still rich, and he's still powerful, and still got a bunch of henchmen who just were knocked out, and they weren't arrested or anything. So I don't know. It doesn't really seem like they're gonna just leave Dr. Brainerd alone. Oh, they made a deal with him. Well, that doesn't seem like that would necessarily stop these crooks. But that's just me personally. Then it ends with a wedding where Brainerd isn't there, but he's there on video because he's working on another invention. And then him and his new wife, Sarah, they go on their honeymoon, fly in the T-Bird through the sky with Weebet and Flubber, and they live happily ever after. And also cause some more childhood trauma for this kid who's just a repeated gag throughout the script where he's just constantly seeing all these weird things. The henchman in the trees sees the flubber smash through the window and sees the flying car. And that was a bit that was kind of funny the first time around, but they just overdid it. And in all honesty, it's it's pretty messed up. Like that poor kid. Like the whole comedy is like, hey, look at all this childhood trauma this kid's gonna have. Isn't that hilarious? I'm like, not really. But the script, it's half baked at points, but I still feel it's a decent screenplay, but it definitely could have been better. I think it could have been funnier. I think the basketball scene goes on a bit too long. I think some of the stuff involving Honecker could have been honed in better. And the whole relationship with Sarah and Philip, like I think there could have been more to that as well in terms of them actually communicating and talking about their issues. And then like actually have Philip show up for the actual wedding at the end and not just be there on video. Like that was kind of lame too. It's like he didn't learn anything. Um but you know, I've seen worse scripts, especially from John Hughes. I think the script here is a lot better than what he did in Home Alone 3 or some of the other screenplays that he did during the latter half of his career, but it's definitely a screenplay that is very much the kind of thing that is for the kids, and there's not really a lot of adult stuff, but there are some adult jokes. Like there's this whole bit where Dr. Brainerd accidentally walks into a nude painting class, which is like one of the first gags in the movie. So there are some stuff for the adults as well. So I definitely will give it credit for that. But it's just kind of a half-baked script that has some fun stuff with the flubber, has some moments that'll make you laugh, but there are just some elements of it that aren't really necessarily as fleshed out or as well done as they could have been. Now the cast for Flubber, I think is pretty decent. I think the best performer is definitely Robin Williams as Dr. Philip Brainerd. He's wonderful to watch in this. Yet again, he's just giving his all, just full of energy, full of life, just very charming, very charismatic, funny in the scenes when he needs to be funny, interacting with the flubber effects in a way that honestly felt like he was actually reacting to something real and not just a CGI effect. The moments when he's actually sad for Weibo are honestly really strong because it features some really authentic acting by Robin in those scenes. So is the moment when he realizes that he's probably never going to be able to get Sarah because of everything that he's done, and he feels a lot of remorse for that. There's some great acting in that bit as well. So Robin is having fun. and is really enjoying playing the role of this mad scientist. Maybe mad isn't the right word, more like wacky. This wacky scientist. And it's honestly one of my favorite performances of his. I've read somewhere that this might have been a paycheck role for him. It doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like Robin is just sleepwalking through his scenes or just there for the paycheck. He is very animated in this, and it's really enjoyable to watch. It's a big part of why I like this movie. I think if you had a different lead, this wouldn't be anywhere near as fun to watch. Marcia Gay Harden, she's okay, but I don't think she's really the best fit for Robin. I don't really think they have the best chemistry. I don't really think they mesh together that well. They are decent together, but they don't really have a lot of sparks. Christopher McDonald, he was fun as the villain or one of the villains, but he's not in it a lot. There's good chunks of the movie where he's just gone and isn't even a part of the film anymore. But he also is one of the better performers, I would say. Other than some of the stuff with the Flubber or Robin Williams and his antics, or maybe a little bit of the stuff with Weibo, he delivers some of the other laughs that are present in the film. Raymond J. Barry is Chester Honecker, the sponsor. It's not really that much of a role, but he does a good job playing a guy that you don't like. So, I mean, that's definitely the task that he was given, and he handled that well. Clancy Brown and Ted Levine, they're the bumbling henchmen of Honecker, and they're a lot of fun together, actually, almost to the point where I wanted to see them in it more. Uh, Maybe have them work for Christopher McDonald and get rid of the Honecker character entirely, and then have more scenes with them because they're a really fun duo. And Ted Levine playing against type as this comedic foil showed his range as an actor. Like his scene with Robin with the gun is one of the biggest highlights of the film. Will Wheaton as Bennett. I mean, he played a good snobby kid that I wanted to see get smacked in the face. So I think that was a pretty successful performance and a good bit of casting. The rest of the cast, I mean, you got Eddie McClurg, who's been in a lot of John Hughes movies as this gal who works at the school in Marfa George, but she's not in it that much. Same thing goes for a lot of the other actors and actresses. But I really have to give a massive shout out and some major props to Jodi Benson, who voiced Weibo. She did a really fantastic job doing the voiceover for Weibo, providing it with a ton of charisma, a ton of energy, a ton of life. Really brought that robot prop uh, to life in the end. Like it really felt like it was a real character because of what she brought to it, and wasn't just some effect. Speaking of the effects, I think for the time for 1997, I think they're pretty good. The animatronics, the model work for Weibo, the flying car, the other sort of stunts and visual effects bits, and even the Flubber itself. For a late 90s movie, the CGI, in my opinion, was really good. I think it actually holds up well. I don't think it's that dated for a late 90s film when it comes to the CGI. There's actually a good amount of movement to it, and it didn't look that stiff, which a lot of CGI from this time tended to do. So had that kinetic energy. So yeah, I think it's actually got some great effects in it for the time. The cinematography by Dean Cundy, once again, some just really professional, really solid, really strong work by him. The editing by Harvey Rosenstock and Michael A. Stevenson is good. I don't think it's great. I think there's some moments, especially in the climax, that could have been edited a bit tighter, a bit better, but it's still fine for what it is. The score by Danny Elfman, I don't really care for the mix of like marimba or mambo music. I don't think that fits with Flubber that well. And it definitely sounds like leftovers from some of his other scores, especially Men in Black of all things. But it's not a bad score. It's spirited enough. It's lively enough. It's just not one of my favorite scores by Danny Elfman. And I will admit, the story and the script isn't as good as it could be, but I enjoy the stuff with the Flubber. I love Weibo. I love every scene with Weibo, to be honest. And Robin Williams is just his usual fun, charismatic self in this, and just him playing the role of Dr. Brainerd and just playing it with such relish and such enthusiasm. It really goes a long way when it comes to this film. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on Flubber. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.